Welcome to episode 10.5 of Under the Hood. Why 10.5, you might ask? Well, actually, we have already recorded episode 11, and you should actually look forward to it. We are going to talk about summary and how we do summary with AI. But before that, we wanted to address the whole vibe coding thing. There's so much people talking about vibe coding these days, then we wanted to do something about it. So this is kind of a special edition of Under the Hood. And today with me I have Stefan. Hi, Stefan.
Hi.
So, Stefan, let's dive right into it. What is vibe coding? You know, people might have heard about it.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit, what is it?
Yeah, so basically it's just using AI to help you code, right? So help you get started with your coding and get things going. So you can think of it as like a colleague you want to have code some work for you, or somebody who's sitting right next to you. You just want to chat with them and get them to build some code for you.
So we have had AI in GitHub with GitHub Copilot in VS Code for a while.
Yeah.
When you had like suggestions for completions and things like that.
Exactly.
So how? But that's not the same. It's a little bit different, right?
Exactly.
Vibe coding is like, you know.
Yeah, we're taking it one step further, using the agent mode in VS Code here or in other tools. And we are letting the agent itself build and reason over some data and figure out how to build the actual code it wants to build. So we are not telling it exactly what we want to build, but we're kind of giving it the framework, the context of what we want to build. And that's what we're going to try now.
Okay, so right? Show us like a minimal Hello World vibe coding thing.
Exactly. So here I just have a project, this empty project just from ALGo, and I want to build something here. And I'm just going to tell it here, I want to build, let's say, add a shoe size to the customer field, right? So I want to add a page extension with shoe size. Size, and we want a backing field for that. So we're going to add a table extension to the customer table with shoe size.
Right, so you're not even writing code, you're just telling
to
the agent what you want.
Exactly, right? like a colleague next door. I would say to him.
By the way, is there something special you need to do in VS Code to be able to do that?
Well, so here I just have the GitHub Copilot chat window, right? And I set the agent mode down here.
Okay, you need to meet in agent mode.
Exactly. You see the ask and the edit, and now there's also the agent mode.
Yeah.
And I like the GPT-5 preview right now, because that's one of the newest models. You can choose from a lot of other models, and you have to figure out which one that works for you. I've had good success with this one, so I'm going to use this one. And then just execute and see what happens. The agent here will go and figure out what to do, and we'll just be waiting here. And we see that it's actually using a reference. In this case, he's actually looking for some code generation instructions from GitHub Copilot, and now it's reading the app JSON to figure out the ID range for the object, similar to what I would do if I had to create something.
So you kind of follow along what's going on, what the agent is doing.
Exactly. And we can see it's now creating some files. Something's going on here. It's created a table extension, and it creates a page extension. And it's just keep working there until it's kind of done with what we asked it to do. And it's looking for a lot of other things here. We can actually follow along with the code here. So we can actually minimize this window here and just view the data. So we can see it's added a table extension that extends the customer table, and it added the shoe size field. And we can see here we have the page extension that added the shoe size field. And it even added a tooltip. I didn't ask for that, but it kind of reasoned that would be a good idea to have a tooltip here. And that seems like a good idea, so we'll just keep that. And here we can now see where it is at. It tells me what it did. So it added the two files, the table extension and the page extension. And then it actually suggests me what to do next.
Oh, so get a small summary of what happened.
Exactly.
Yeah. And suggest what you could do.
Exactly.
Okay, pretty cool. So there's a lot of vibe coding out there. You know, there are tons of videos and tutorials and stuff, but not too many about AL.
No.
But actually, vibe coding also works, as you just showed, for AL. It's not, I mean, the agents and models are pretty good with AL too, right?
I think so, yeah. It's actually doing a pretty good job here, and there's really nothing that doesn't work in what it's created here. So this would compile if I click the build and it will actually create an extension for me.
So I noticed something, for example, that it figures out which ID to use.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Somehow it figures out that they have to use the 50,000 and 100 start idea. So
it learned.
So it has some insight into the project, and it's probably looking into the maybe the app.json. Who knows?
It did actually. We can see up here that it actually looked at the app.
Yeah, okay, that's probably where it got that.
So it knows a lot of things about building extensions for Business Central. It knows that we use IDs, and it knows that it has to go to the app.json file to find the range that it can use, because that's all documented out there.
Pretty cool.
So the model has learned all of that. But in order for us to really get something out of it, we need to continue building on this.
Right.
So let's just add the validation on it, right? Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Add validation that checks the shoe size is between 15 and 62,
for example.
62, yeah.
That's big feet. But
I guess that depends on which kind of metrics you use.
Yeah.
Again, we see what it's doing. It's reading some data from the context of the project here, and it knows that in Business Central we have something called an unvalidated trigger.
Okay.
And now it's actually going to implement that for us. And we can go to the table extension, and we can actually see it implementing the validation here and erroring out if it doesn't work, if it's wrong.
And every time you can choose whether you keep the changes or undo.
Exactly. Yeah, so this version of an agent has these checkpoints that you can go back to. So you can restore a checkpoint if you feel that it went off track.
Okay, you can go back to like the previous stage you were in. Yeah.
And at any time you can say, okay, now we're kind of done with this, so I'll keep all of that, and we can check that in and kind of submit that.
Okay.
But in order for us to do real vibe coding, we need to step away from the code. We need to take ourselves away from the actual implementation details.
But you need to look at the code anyway, a little bit.
Yeah. So that's where the developer has a hard challenge, right? To step away from the code and actually look at giving the agent space to implement something and just iterate on the actual definition of the project you want to implement, rather than looking at the specific validation code here, right? And that's the next big thing.
Okay, so this is cool. This is like a Hello World example.
It is.
But what's your experience? Because people might argue, okay, it's a simple extension. It's not a real world example. So, what's your experience with a bigger project? Like, let's say, as a partner or developer, you have maybe this larger solution, which is based on top of, extending Business Central. Can you vibe code in that environment as well? And what does that work?
So I think there's a couple of different ways you can use this tool. As we do here, we implement something simple and we do prototyping and all these things. But if you want to implement something that is in a bigger context, you need to narrow down the context. You need to figure out what exactly it is that the agent can help you with. And one of the things that the agent is really good at is all the scaffolding, all the creations, like create a new table. Okay, it can do that. But actually going in and manipulating small details that are in your existing application that maybe has a lot of years on it or a complex design, that's going to be a little bit difficult for the agent. So you have to figure out which parts of your application it can help you. This could be like creating a permission set. It will find all the tables that you need and it will create the permission set.
Yeah, that's traditionally it's a little bit tedious work.
Exactly. Create a page or a list page or a card page, and it will actually figure out which fields belong together. Reason over the data that's there.
Yeah, so a lot of the boilerplate code can be written by the agent quite quickly.
Absolutely. So it can actually be quite fast to use these tools if you find the right scenarios. Yeah.
So you talked about context.
Yes.
So tell us a little more about it. Agents usually are performing better if they have a better context and a lot more information. So what's the approach when you're vibe coding? How do you provide context to the agent?
So you have the opportunity to define the context it needs to work on by specifying certain symbols, for example. If in this case I wanted it to only work on my table, I could put in the table as a syntax here. So I actually say customer table, like this one.
Okay.
Say this is the symbol I want to work on. So I can give it a little more information on this one.
So the hashtag file, what does that do?
That's the symbol. to point to a symbol in your project.
Okay.
Right? I can also add files in my project if I wanted to know about some files. I can add some documentation.
So you could have a README file, for
I could
example,
have a README file.
Markdown
Exactly.
format or something like that.
So the more context you give to the project, to the agent, in that it's able to read specs, README, doc comments, all these things, will give it more information to work with and reason over. So if it knows the purpose of the function, then it will also be able to make a decision whether to use a function. And the same with the page and the table and so forth.
So would you recommend that when you start vibe coding for a serious project, you maybe write down what kind of a small specification of some kind to help the agent?
I think that's an excellent idea, and I think that's where you get to the true vibe coding, where you don't need to look at the actual code. You talk about the spec, you talk about what is it that you want to achieve by implementing this. And then when you have a spec, you can tell the agent, go implement it.
Got it.
Just go and get it done, right? We can try. I have actually a small prompt that I created, and I'm just going to paste it in here because it's a little bigger than what we did before.
So you've prepared this in advance, but it's basically just text, right?
Exactly. Let's see. There we go. So here I have the prompt that I created, and I'm just going to scroll to the top here. So the prompt is that the agent is acting as a collaborator, developer, my peer here.
Yeah.
I'm actually
always a good idea to define the role.
Exactly. Scope it down to what we're trying to do here. And we want to build a Business Central extension for managing properties, rentals, and service requests. So we can think of this as a complete vertical in Business Central, like a big project that we're going to start. And before we want to start coding, we want to make sure that when we think about the coding, we want to think about the functional requirements first, like we would do with a colleague, talk about what are we implementing, how are we supposed to do it. And then we want to make sure that when we write AL code, we follow some guidelines. And here we have the link to the community-driven vibe coding guidelines.
Okay.
So I've used that as instructions.
So the agent will go and look that up.
Exactly. So that means that it will actually take some of these instructions here and use them when they actually generate code.
Correct.
And then I'm just going to say, well, let's start with 10 questions. Let's start with 10 important questions about what we're building so we can actually get started without starting with the code. We want to start with the spec instead.
Okay.
This is where I don't need to know how it implements this, but I need to make sure it follows my spec, right?
So you're asking the agent actually to ask questions.
Exactly, yeah. Clarify, and in that also reason over what we have done and what we will do. Let's try it out, see what happens. So it's going to work a little bit because this is a bigger prompt. It's going to take a little.
By the way, a good trick, also something, I don't know if you've done that, but when you write a prompt like this, what you can do with benefit is to get that prompt that you wrote and put it through, say, ChatGPT or Copilot, and ask Copilot or some AI to actually improve that prompt.
Exactly.
So you write it the best you can, but usually getting it through this first refinement stage, can provide really, really good results. Because models are also trained to do that kind of thing, and they know how to write a better prompt from themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And my prompt here was super simple. I didn't provide any context on it. Like normally you would build something that's a little more detailed about what you want to build. But even with this simple prompt, and you see here, it got me a whole lot of questions, whole lot of recommendations. And if we go through some of these, we'll find that it actually put in some stuff that is Business Central specific.
Okay.
So it combined my prompt with the knowledge.
Can you give an example?
Well, we have some here around building a custom tenant table. So for the people who are renting a property here, or link it here to the customer table, which is part of Business Central core product, right? So it knows about that. If I had my own solution next to it, I could bring in that context and say, I have these tables, figure out how you can use them, right? I have this data, I have this functionality, figure out how you can use that in this solution also.
Very cool.
But because it's Business Central, it can find it in the existing training. So we can go through this and we can see that there's lots of good questions, things that we might want to think about when we build projects like this. And
so that's kind of also kind of a help to actually write a better specification and provide even better context to the agent, right?
Exactly. And if we save these in a file, the questions and answers here, we'll be able to go back to it later But let's continue with this one. Let's see what it's going to do here. It's just I'm going to take the easy way out, right? Because we don't have time for going through this. But I do recommend that people take time, answer the question the best they can, so that we get the best solution possible.
Yes.
For now, I'm just going to
for the purpose of this demo, just go ahead.
Exactly.
But you could potentially review all these and kind of adjust it and fine tune it.
Exactly. Be curious about some of the other things that the agent can do. Right. So I'm just going to accept all here. Let's see what happens.
So now it starts with actually writing some code.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Well, I don't expect it to.
Okay.
Right. So now it's made a checklist of all that needs to be done here.
Okay.
It's then done a specification for version 0.2. Mm-hmm. And it tells me that it's going to create, or at least have a spec for some tables. I mean, we have here multiple tables just from the words I put in from the beginning, like the properties, leases, and
so the assignment is to create a
spec first, right?
A spec, but what's the domain? Start creating rental management.
Property management, right?
Property management.
It's just a sample.
So it's a real scenario.
It's a real scenario. Something that is a vertical that doesn't integrate deep into Business Central, but actually stands next to it.
Okay.
If you want to integrate deep into Business Central, you need to provide more context about where in Business Central you want to integrate into. So for this demo, I put something that is semi-connected but not fully integrated, right?
So we still still hasn't produced any code at that stage.
No, it doesn't.
But we're still working on basically specifying the work, more or less, right?
Exactly. And even here, I told it to ask me 10 questions. Mm-hmm. But even after these 10 questions and the answers I gave, except all, it's going to ask me more questions because it reasoned that there is going to be more work to be done. We need to understand something more before we even go on with this. So I'm just going to skip this and just say, let's implement it.
Now we're writing code.
Well, I'm not writing any code.
No, but the agent does. All right.
The agent is actually writing the code. So let's see if it actually can implement it. Again, we specified that it should use the AL guidelines on the community-driven vibe coding site. And
so you'll get the coding styles from the.
I'm hoping that we'll get that. Again, if you look at a peer, you're talking to a peer, and you tell him to use these style guides, he will most likely use them. But there's no guarantee.
All right. So that's a fair comparison. Exactly. That's a good way to look at it. I guess.
Exactly. Exactly. But what I can do with whatever it produces here, we can see it's already producing some tables, pages, and code units, and so forth. I could just press F5 and see if it builds. And then go to the browser and check out the product that I've built. Yeah. And then I could say, okay, well, I don't like these fields and can vibe code some more. Yeah. I don't need to look at the code. For true vibe coding, you need to detach yourself from the code.
Okay.
I can also go directly into code.
I couldn't help notice also when you set up on the screen, you have the agent window is way bigger than the actual code window. You can barely actually read the code in the web, but that's a totally different way to approach coding. Right?
Absolutely. I'm not gonna overstate it. It's just because I work this way. There are gonna be situations where I need to go into the code and understand what the challenge is, right? Because it's not magic here, right?
But almost, it feels a little bit like magic, right?
I mean,
there's also this, as you mentioned before, there's also this, vibe coding is also, there's this iterative aspect of it, right? Yeah. And maybe the reason why it has been so popular and people are, so excited about it is because as opposed to maybe just asking some AI, write some code as a one-off thing, the vibe coding process is much more iterative. Yes. You start with some code and then you get the agent to write something, and then you ask the agent add a field or fix that algorithm, and then you do another iteration. And when you think about it, that resembled a lot the way traditional coding work. Yes. Coding is very much like that. You start writing something simple, write a few lines of code, try it out, add some more things, add some tests, add an extra functionality, and then you try it out as you go. And I think the reason why maybe it's so, there's so much hype about it and people are so excited about it because it's so close to what programmers do all the time. And it feels very natural, and it feels, it's like having somebody to help you with the tedious stuff.
Exactly.
And you,
That's
you
exactly the
that's
point. Yeah,
that's what it's so. I think it's so great because we all tried it. If you code, there's permissions, or we start with a new page. You have a lot of define the field and all that. It's not really the interesting part, but you have to do it, and that's where agents and AI is great because it can get you through these things very very quickly, and then you can spend time on the more interesting things, and maybe the harder part of the code that needs more attention. Right?
Exactly.
So it's still working.
It's still working, and it can continue to work for some time. So you might think, well, couldn't I code this faster myself? And some people can. They have fast fingers, but is that what you want to spend your time on? Or do you want to spend the time on thinking about what's the next steps? What are the things that we're missing? What are the things that we need to do next here, right? That's maybe more interesting, as you say. What's the algorithm?
I think how many it's been working like for what, like 1 minute or so, 1.5 minutes already created. I can see 5 or 6 objects more. Or something like that, even more. I think you need to be really fast if you
pages, a lot of pages, lots of permissions, tables.
Or you need to be quite fast if you want to create this in the same amount of time. I don't think I can.
No. So if you look at it isolated, one file, one thing, yes, maybe you could do it. But building all of this and having it be connected from the beginning, like it knows the table relationships, it knows what the pages needs to have, what source tables and what fields and so forth. All of this is a great offset. Like you get started really fast with this. And you don't really need to do much more than just ask it.
So there's a lot of people saying, I've seen a lot of people saying, I've tried vibe coding, and then you start vibe coding, it's all great, and then you spend 10 minutes generating code and 2 hours debugging it afterwards. I see a lot of people saying that. So what's your experience? Is that true? Is that a lot of it looks great, it demos really well, but how much is the code actually production quality afterwards, and how much time do you need to spend debugging it?
So when we first started with agent mode, and we had maybe the GPT-4 and all these things, it was not as good as it is today. GPT-5, Claude models, the newer ones, and other newer models are much better at AL. So it will actually generate building code. Because I'm using it inside VS Code, you will also see sometimes in the process that it will actually look at the symbols that we're processing in the background. And it will look at the compilation results and diagnostics that we're processing. So it will actually change course every now and then, figure out, that was wrong, I need to go back and fix that error or fix that diagnostic.
So as you mentioned before, it has a lot more context than if you just go to ChatGPT or Copilot and ask it to write code there, it doesn't have
the feedback.
I mean, here it actually tries to compile the whatever code you're writing and see the errors, see the warnings. I've seen it, for example, even the warnings. If you get the warnings when you build, it goes and try to fix the warning, and then goes again and try again, and so all these contexts you are having it's much more than just having writing code through ChatGPT or other just chat interface. This is really integrated with the whole
interactive, essentially. Exactly. Yeah. And we can just try that whatever it's finished building here, there's an error, right? So sometimes it doesn't fix all of them, and we need to go look at it. And that happens because it doesn't always get the signals at the right time.
Right.
So then you need to feed it back. You can just copy the error message, put them back into the chat. And
so it finishes there, but there's an error.
Yeah, so we see here there's lots of issues here. So we can go fix that. We can just copy the problems here. Let me take the output here. Just take a few. And copy them and just say, well,
fix that.
I'm not going to look.
You just paste the error. You don't even ask, so it kind of understand that's what you want.
Well, it reasons that the reason why I'm putting this in is because it's going to fix some issues.
All right, here we go.
So even if it didn't pick it up, in this case it didn't for some reason. I don't know why, but sometimes it doesn't pick up all the errors, all the issues, and then you just feed them back in. And
so is that because it does a better job working like one error at the time afterwards than when you have when you try to handle the whole bulk of things?
So right now there is no compile method for the agent to call. So it relies on the diagnostics to be produced while it's building. And when it's done and we didn't get the diagnostics, then it's just going to see the errors at the end. So we need to feed them back in. And maybe there are some issues around generating, so maybe it cannot make the decision. So like here, it's going to ask me something. I'm just going to run a full compile. There we go. And now it worked.
All right.
Like, that's all I had to do. Now it just worked.
Okay, talking about which, Stefan, you are the lead of the compiler team.
Yeah.
So, is there anything you're working on right now? We are doing to help this experience in the future. Are we going to introduce some new things in the compiler, new features in the whole the AL development experience? So the agent experience is going to be better. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I just talked about the compiler.
Yeah.
And that's part of the whole, we need to give the agent more tools.
Right.
So compile is one of them. We also are thinking maybe we should add the ability to publish it. And we are looking into test execution.
Okay.
Because if the agent is able to not only build the code, but also force a compilation, and also write tests, publish extensions, and then execute the test and get feedback, then it can do the whole loop itself.
That will be really, really cool.
That could be kind of cool.
So are we working on that?
We are actually working on that right now. So that's in the scope right now.
Yeah.
But I just want to return to something we said in the beginning here. Context is key here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So one of the things you'll find when you're working with the Business Central is it's not all symbols that it can find.
Okay.
So what we are working on also is adding MCP servers, so the Model Context Protocol, for giving the agents more context to work with. And
so if you haven't heard about MCP, just briefly, MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It's basically a standard. It's an open source standard, right? And it's mostly a discovery mechanism that allows agents to. So agents are trained now to understand and know about MCP.
Yep.
And by exposing some capabilities as an MCP server, you can, there's some discovery mechanism and agents and AI can do intelligent things about this. So think of it as a way to expose what kind of tools you have. Right? Is that fair to say? That's what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you have there's tons of MCP servers out there. If you if you haven't heard of it, so look it up. There's a lot. We have actually an MCP server for our documentation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which you can you can show how you add an MCP server to your context when you are in VS Code.
Yeah. So I actually have it in the MCP server here. So you can see here. These are the tools that are on here. That's the tools for this agent, and I am actually using the MS Learn, so the Docs MCP server.
Yes.
You can discover more MCP servers from your extensions. So you can go down here to MCP servers. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So below the extensions there is MCP servers installed. And I have actually the Docs twice.
So this actually gives VS Code agents access to our documentation,
exactly.
The BC documentation,
Exactly.
and it has an API. And through this MCP protocol, what it does basically say, there's an API I can call, and I can ask, search on the documentation, and that when it writes some code or respond to your request, it actually look into.
So it uses these, exactly. Right? And you can find even more here. Like you click the button here. There's many other, and there are some extensions that also produce MCP servers, like the Context 7 one I have here. And we are thinking about adding even more. Like the one we have for Business Central is more about getting access to the customer data.
Right.
But we need to add an MCP server that gives you access to the environment metadata. So that will give you what symbols exist on the server. And then we want to broaden that out so you can actually develop even more with this metadata MCP server.
So that will mean that the old vibe coding experience will be probably even more powerful, and you can do more things and maybe less errors and more advanced things.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. So of course, errors and other diagnostics, we need to look at those. How can we communicate to the agent what needs to change? What can we do better in order to help it guide itself to the next solution?
All right.
Right? Yeah. Right. So lots of good stuff here. You can also add your own, just to take that also. So if you go to the functions, you can just add your own MCP server if you have one on your own company.
Okay. Yeah.
Your own docs.
Yeah.
Maybe you have your own development resources.
So you could expose that to an MCP server and edit it, so you have that context as well.
Exactly.
Very cool.
And if you go up here, again, as an alternative of providing context to MCP and to the files, we had the coding guidelines from the web, from the community, but you can also add your own just by going to the chat configuration and look at your instructions, prompt files, and so forth, right? So you can go there and actually add your own instructions. So when you create a table, it must have this prefix or whatever you want to have.
Okay, so you can basically add some. It's going to end up in the prompt eventually, right?
Exactly.
Instruction that will be added to every prompt, and it could be, for example, coding guidelines or anything you think. Always indent like this or whatever.
The rules you have in your company, right? So whatever is required for making the code the best quality.
Always name
Yeah.
procedure according to that scheme or whatever.
Always document public methods and all that.
Yeah. Okay. Right? Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah.
So lots of things you can do with this. Yeah.
Okay. So that's super great. So how if we if partners and developers want to get started with vibe coding, what's your recommendation? How how should they go about it?
Yeah.
First of all, is that something? Yeah. Let me ask before that. Is that something that you would recommend people use also for production grade coding?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not just a toy.
No. Yeah, it's almost never too late to start, right? And then you have to start. You have to try it out. You have to figure out what you can use it for. This is a productivity tool. It will help you do all the tedious, the scaffolding, all the things that you have to do again and again and again, easy. And it's going to be so much of a benefit to you as an individual developer because you can be much more productive and focus on the right things. But it's also going to give you a better connection to maybe customers or consultants to allow them to describe things and help translate that into code. It doesn't need to be one-to-one, but it will help you translate it into code. So just go, get started, figure out what you can use it for, try it out, and every new model that comes out will be even better than the one we have now.
We can pretty much predict that.
We can pretty much predict it. Yeah,
that's what we have seen. At least that's been the trend so far.
Exactly.
There's so much difference between even the 4 models and the 4 models and GPT-5 and Claude. I hear also that Claude Sonnet is very good at AI. People are also giving good feedback on this, but
different tools.
You should try. You should try which one actually works for you.
There's
a bit of a taste. People like better GPT-5. People like better Claude. So this, just try it out. These models are available. There are several of them available in VS Code.
And don't stick to one model. Don't say it's only that model. Try different models. So when you feel like you're getting stuck with one model for one scenario, go try something else. Like experiment a little with the models.
And you can change model at any time.
Exactly.
Actually,
right? Just go down here. In this case here, just go down, pick another model, then continue the chat, and then you get a new result, a different way of reasoning.
All right. So last question before we conclude on this. That was really cool. It's a little bit scary still, right? I mean, how much do you think this is going to, what does it mean for a whole developer community, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit scary. People think. I'm sure there are people thinking out there, is it going to replace my job? So what's your thinking on that?
Yeah, so I think for me personally, it's a productivity tool. So it helps me build the things faster, or at least get me started faster. All the scaffolding as we talked about, but it's also a way for me to get inspiration because it will help me expand my knowledge. Like maybe I don't know enough about number series, I can ask it about number series how to integrate. So that's like from a personal point of view, it's a productivity tool. Obviously, if you're just working on creating permission sets, this might replace that.
Yeah.
But I think we as developers are prone to problem solving, and we'll find the solutions using these tools in a more efficient way. So I don't think my job is going away tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying.
I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of work out there.
Yeah.
And usually it's more, that's what we hear from, a partner channel, but that's also true for ourselves.
Absolutely.
We have so many things in our backlog. And we can never get everything done in one release. So with these tools, our expectation is that we will actually be able to be more productive and get more features out,
Yeah.
and because the expectation is still there, there's still a lot of things to do, and I think that goes for any industry, any solution out there built on BC.
Yeah.
People are usually, what we hear is that people have a lot of demands, a lot of customers, and they have a hard time to keep up with the requests from from their customers.
Absolutely.
So that could be a way to actually get more done and be more efficient and have a better ERP experience and a better product.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally agree.
All right, Steph. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
That was really great. And if you have some comments and if you want to know more about what we are going to do with vibe coding, put some question in the comments below. And thank you for watching.